Welcome back, everyone. So today I got to do a little bit of a floor repair. So I have this VCT tile floor that I put in back in May of 2020, I think, about 5 years ago. And it's holding up very well. I learned a lot from the previous floor I did. So this floor came out pretty good. The one that I did in my bathroom, not so great. I had to replace quite a few tiles, but this one is holding up nicely. But we have a tile here that is lifting up a little bit. You can see it's cracking right here because it caught on someone's sock. And we're going to pull this tile up and we're going to replace it with a brand new one. So anytime you put in a VCT floor, or really any kind of floor, you want to make sure that you have extra pieces. So I think I have two extra boxes, one of each color, black and white. Now I used a bunch of the black tile just the other day on our bathroom floor. So this is our bathroom floor. It's a black VCT floor with gray cove molding or baseboard molding. And this particular floor, I had to replace the entire center section. And I will eventually be replacing from here to here, but that I don't need to do that today. But this whole center section was looking pretty bad, so I took it entirely up. The subfloor is in brand new condition, so I didn't have any issues there, but I had to sand a few spots that weren't completely flat. So when I learned from my mistakes, because when I did this floor just a couple of years later, I put down a nice 1/4 inch plywood underlayment, and that is staggered over the seams of the 7/8 plywood underneath it. So our floors are quite thick. So this floor originally had a 9x9 vinyl asbestos floor tile, and the subfloor is 1x6 planking. On top of that 1x6 planking is a 7/8 sheet of plywood. And what they did back in the day, in the 1950s, is when they put a vinyl asbestos floor down, they would either bond it directly to plywood, or they would put down a layer of tar paper. And that's what they did to this place. So there was a sheet of tar paper put down and that glued down, and then they would glue the floor on top of that. We don't do that anymore. The correct way of doing a vinyl composite floor like this one is to put down a sheet of 1/4 ply. So that's what I did. So the floor thickness is a 1/4 inch thicker than original, but it really is holding up quite well. But that one tile right there, I don't know what's going on with it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare a new floor tile to replace it, and here it is. Now, this floor has several layers of wax on top of it, and I don't want to strip this floor right now. I really don't have any desire to do that. So what I'm going to do is we're going to So let me get back to let me go back a step. So if I were to put that new tile down, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb because it won't have the right sheen, and I will have to wax that one tile several times over. So rather than do that in place, I'm going to do something a little different. I swear to God, the custodians at work did pretty much the same thing when they had to replace a few tiles over the summer in our building. I'm going to put a layer of sealer down, 2 layers of sealer, and then I'm going to put maybe 3 or 4 coats of wax on top of it. So that way, the tile is ready to go in place. It will have wax on it, and then I'm going to clean this floor really good and put 1 thin coat of wax over the whole thing. I think it'll look good. Generally, you wouldn't put this kind of a floor in a house today, but this house was built 70 years ago, and we're trying to keep it kind of in the era that it was built. You see, I've got a circline bulb. I've got the teal walls. I really have done a lot of work to this kitchen over the past 2 years just to kind of correct some of the mistakes I made originally. Well, not just me, but we both really like how this kitchen turned out. All right, so this tile, it has to dry, and then I'll put another. So it's got a thin coat of sealer. You want to put like 2 coats of that down. And then we'll start building up the polish. But I'm going to have to put it on something because I don't want this stuff to get on my counters. It is a bitch to remove once you get it on there. That gives me an idea. Maybe I could put some floor wax on this Formica countertop and make it last a little longer. Probably not a good idea. This countertop is on not plywood. It is on oak tongue and groove. So there is no plywood under this. It is literally tongue and groove oak. Probably the same stuff they used on the floors. This place was built in a weird period where they were just starting to bring in modern materials like plywood into home construction. Because there are just some things were done in this place that I just scratched my head, like, why did they do that? And then I realized, 1954, plywood existed, sure. There is plywood underneath this flooring, but they didn't just put plywood down. They put plywood on top of 1x6 planking, which it just seems so absurd because modern day houses are built so cheaply in comparison. I can see why they did that, because that means that the oak flooring is about 1 inch thick. So they had to make sure that the tiled sections, like the bathroom and the kitchen, the tiled sections had to meet the thickness of the oak flooring. So it's like 7/8 thick oak right there, just shy of 1 inch. But the absurdity of it all, like I've seen houses built where there's nothing under the oak flooring. But it's bizarre. Some of the things that they did when they built this place were actually pretty thoughtful and well done. But some of the stuff was just amateur hour. I mean, again, the house has survived all these years without any real drama. Did you know there's not one crack in these plaster walls or the ceilings? Not one crack anywhere in this house. Well, there was one. There was one crack right there, and it was caused by the beam underneath these appliances sagging over the years. So that beam sagged just a little bit, and it did crack right there. But I have put 2 hollow columns underneath that beam to give it a little more structural strength. And then I patched that. That was the only crack in the whole fucking house, if you can imagine that. And these are plaster walls. Plaster over gypsum. And it's just, the house is holding up remarkably well. But if you look at the finer details of the construction, there are so many little things that I could point out that just don't make any sense, because like there are better ways to do that. But they did not skimp on materials. The flooring is one example, but the walls, the walls and the ceilings are all plaster over gypsum at a time when you could have easily gotten away with just gypsum walls. So these walls are about that thick. And so these are supposed to be 8-foot ceilings. And I took a tape measure. So don't mind the mess. This is all of our wedding stuff. We're putting our wedding together right now, and we've got stuff everywhere. So this isn't how we normally live. But anyway, these are 8-foot ceilings. If you measure from the subfloor to the rafters, they're 8 feet. There's about 2 to 3 inches of height loss throughout this house. it's just crazy to me. About good 2 to 3 inches of height loss from the flooring and the ceiling. Now, if you're thinking, well, maybe the house was renovated at some point. No, it wasn't. This is as built. This is literally how it was built. Nothing has ever changed. Original countertops. I changed out the flooring in the kitchen and the bathroom. That's it. Now, of course, the backsplash is something that I did. This is plastic. High quality, I know. I figured I would do plastic because it was way less prep time and way less materials. And also I did this during COVID, so materials were just not around. You couldn't buy anything. But I was able to get this, and I'm lucky for it. So this is almost dry. Once it turns dull, then I'll put another coat of sealer on there, and then we'll do our high traffic floor polish, about 4 coats, I think I said. And then we'll use a heat gun. So I'm going to show you guys how to remove a tile if you ever need to. It's not hard. Just use a heat gun. We'll heat it up a little bit, and we're going to use a scraper. We'll get it up. Now, one of the most important things you must do when you're replacing a floor tile on VCT is you're going to take yourself a utility knife, and you are going to cut between the tiles. Here's the thing. Something caused that to lift, and it's possible that the adhesive could be failing underneath the tiles or could be weakening. Now, I did roll this with a 100-pound roller, and it bonded quite nicely, but sometimes those adhesives just don't hold up over time, especially in high traffic areas. So we could start lifting that tile only to find out the one next to it wants to go at the same time. And then you lift that one, but before you know it, you're ripping up an entire floor. We don't want to do that. We just want to do one tile, and that is it. Now, I've already replaced a couple of tiles in here because I had some staples and the underlayment that kind of poked through a little bit. I had quite a few, actually. So I've already replaced about 6 tiles in here. But that was very early on. But we do need to do a bunch of different things. I got to pull the air conditioner out. I want to get that out of here. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. But we got to get this done. So I'm going to put another coat. I'm going to do it now. Put another coat of sealer down. And then I'm going to run out. I got to grab some dinner. And then I'm going to come back and we'll get to work. Okay, so we're going to try to pull this tile out without the aid of heat. Something tells me that it's going to just come right off the floor. But first, I'm going to take a nice sharp knife, and we're going to make sure that we cut the wax. So the purpose of doing this, this cut here, is when you put, multiple layers of floor wax on top of these tiles, it sets up like a plastic. And yes, it can actually act as almost an adhesive and can attach the tiles to each other. Fun stuff. All right, so we're gonna so look at how this just comes right up. Look at that. It just an accident waiting to happen. So actually the adhesive is still pretty good. The adhesive strength is still there. But what we're going to do is I'm going to get some heat, and it'll allow me to pull this up in one piece. So why don't I do that? And grab a heat gun. And we'll just take it up in one piece. It's a lot easier that way. Alright, so I'm just using this heat gun here. I'm going to just apply a little bit of heat around the tile like this. Get it warmed up. And that's going to help release the adhesive. So we can hopefully get this thing up in one piece. You don't need to go crazy with it. Just warm it up. See how that comes up? well, it will soften the tile substantially, but it's not like we're reusing it. And I can see why it came up like that in that one spot. And we're going to try to figure out a solution for it. But I'm not optimistic on that one. Probably going to have to replace this one again in the future. But I can see what happened here. So, all right. Let me get tightened up here. Wash my hands. This stuff is very sticky. I'm going to take a scraper and I'm going to just kind of go over the whole thing a little bit. But what happened here is these two sheets didn't expand at the same rate. And because of how this floor is constructed, but there's a lot of sand in there, so it released a little bit over time, and it allowed the sand to get in there, which destroys whatever bond remains. We're going to just scrape up all this old glue. That's okay. We're going to mount the new tile. We're going to clean this up, and we'll probably be replacing it in another 5 years. Maybe the whole floor at that point. But clean up on aisle 10. So once you've done a reasonably half-assed job of cleaning with a scraper all the glue residue, you're going to take some masking tape and you're going to mask off the entire area around it. And you want to do this because you're going to get adhesive oozing out of the joint when you put the tile down. Well, you may. You don't want to get any of that glue on any adjacent tile because it's a pain in the ass to remove. Especially if you want to do this quick and you don't want to spend a lot of time cleaning. So what we're going to do is we're going to put down some of this glue with a roller. Now this is a newer product than what I used originally. This is Henry 647. It is a fast track LVT and vinyl flooring adhesive. It is applied not with a trowel, but with a roller. And I don't know if I caught any of that, so I'm going to try this again. We're using a Henry 647 multi-purpose floor adhesive. This is what they sell at the local big box stores. It is not the product I originally used, which was applied with a trowel. This particular product goes on with a 3/8 snap roller. Because I'm only doing one tile, it's easier to use a half roller. So that's what we're doing. Application is just like paint. You get it on the roller and you spread it on nice, evenly, making sure, real sure, to get the edges. I believe I discussed, and I got it on camera, that we wanted to make sure we mask off the adjacent tiles. And this is why we don't want this adhesive all over the clean tiles that are around it. Now, when this purple stuff turns clear, it's ready to go. Now, it's important that we do our best to keep pets away from this, like our cats, for example. They're going to do what cats do. They're going to try to sniff the glue. Now, it won't be anywhere nearly as entertaining as when you were in 4th grade and you and your best friend were huffing glue, like the big kids did, only to realize that you were huffing Elmer's glue, which has no effect. But later in years, you realize how funny that was, and it's fun to joke about. But back then, it was no joking matter. Anyway, so your cats are going to try to get high off this stuff. And in doing so, they're going to get their fur and their cute little paw prints all covered in glue. Not fun. So I'm going to go and put something over this that would probably help keep the cats away. I got to find something. But we're going to let that dry to a clear finish. And once we do, we can apply the tile. Now, I don't have a 100-pound roller like the one I rented when I put this floor down in the first place, but I will use every bit of my 180 pounds to push that tile down. Can you believe that's all I weigh? I know, right? Apparently on camera, people think I weigh 300 pounds. No, I weigh $180. Sorry to disappoint. I just look big, I guess. But anyway, we're going to let that do its thing, and we're going to put this roller's trash. We're not going to reuse this. And we could put that bucket away. I wish they had smaller buckets, but that's the smallest one they have. So if we were doing an entire floor, obviously we would be using a full-sized roller, but this is not the case. So, as a matter of fact, if it helps you guys figure out how much glue to buy, this entire floor used about 1/4 of a bucket that size. That's it. Not even. I think it wasn't even that much. It was like just a couple inches off the top. Yeah. Stuff goes a long way. Don't overbuy your glues. This stuff also goes bad. So, yeah. All right, now we wait. I'm going to put one more coat on top of this guy while that dries. And once we have that waxed, I'm going to then, maybe not tonight, but on another day, see, this guy, he's looking to create some mischief. And I'm going to be like, don't do that. I'm going to scrub this floor down real good and put a thin coat of wax over the whole thing and kind of blend it in. That's my goal. So, stripping these floors, by the way, is a nightmare. I've stripped this floor once in 5 years, and it was not fun. It was an absolute nightmare. Did I strip this floor? I don't even know if I did. But it's not something you want to do on a regular basis because the chemicals are very, very harsh. I do like the way it looks, though. I mean, it really does accentuate this. I mean, look at this kitchen. I mean, come on. How could you not like that? I mean, look at it. I mean, the color choices that we've made are just, yeah, A-okay. I love it. Original countertops, original light fixture. Those are the curtains that my future mother-in-law made. She is quite the seamstress. She made us a complete set of those. I just recently, just a few months ago, I completely refinished this door. It's got dust on it. I completely refinished this door. Look at that. Oh man, this door looked like ass. I mean, it was so bad. It was so gouged and beat up. But look at it now. I mean, that is what it should look like. But anyway, keep the airflow going. This is something I built this earlier this summer. And yes, that is a real commercial fridge. That came out of a checkout counter at a Walmart. That's where it originally came from. I believe it came out of the one of the self-checkout lanes. And I got a really good deal on this. But it's a real, true brand refrigerator. Quite the thing. But I built this little countertop area for it. So we can have our little party supplies, drinks, napkins, plates. Stuff like that. CDs, apparently. That's where my Yellow Jackets tape went. Anyway, yeah, that was a nice project. I'm glad I did that. But just coming together. Okay, I think it's about ready. It's still got a little purple haze to it, but you got to realize the longer I leave this open, the more likely it is that little particles and fragments will end up in here. So that would be a bigger travesty than anything else. So I'm going to wipe the back of the tile off. See how it's tile is molded, not molded, but rolled material. So it's colored throughout the tile. So we want to make sure that no particles end up in there. The second thing we want to make sure is the direction is correct. So these are directional tiles. The whites go one way, the blacks go another. So we're going to put this down make sure that it goes in all the way, especially in that trouble spot. Now I'm going to step on this, dance all over it, peel up the tape. Just like that. And we're going to get this tile set in place all the way. See, it's just a little bit brighter than the adjacent tiles. That's okay. After we clean everything up and give it another coat, it'll all work out in the end. But like I said, I didn't want to leave this open too long because cat hair and other particles will find their way into that glue, and we don't want that. So we're going to let that cure for a bit before we go crazy with the cleaners and the waxes and the other stuff. So there's something on my pants. I probably got some glue on my, yeah, get that nice. I am the 100-pound roller. Twinkle toes. And that is repaired. How long? I don't know. A couple years? Who knows? Who cares? So now you can actually see the color difference between the new tiles and the old ones. It's not drastic, but it's definitely there. That's okay. It's really quite all right. And that is how you replace one tile on your vinyl composite floor. Okay, so this is the dirty, dingy floor. And then, as we walk towards this way, that is a floor that has been cleaned and has a nice thin coat of floor wax. Dingy, waxy. You can see the line in the sand. I'm doing half the kitchen right now, so I can put all this stuff back, and then I'll do the second half. But you can see how much of a difference some real elbow grease really gives these floors. No, the tile's not going to be as white as snow because it has a few layers of wax on it, and wax does yellow over time. I think it gives it a nice patina as long as it's clean and shiny. And of course, this mark here from the trash can, that's just not going to go away. I'm going to have to strip the floor to get rid of that, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to let it build up. You know, why? I love that color scheme. So you got several different colors going on right here. You've got black, you have white, bright white, you have antique white, you have yellow, of course stainless steel, and you have teal. All in one little corner. I really love it. I really, really do. I like how the antique white, and then over here you have even more. You've got the gray, dark gray door sill, threshold. Sorry, the threshold. And then you've got now this color here. This is I don't know exactly what that's called. It's not white. It's like a very light gray. You've got. Again, we're back to the stainless steel. This is actually polished aluminum. Then over here, you've got this darker gray color mixed with a little bit of red, a bit of teal. So I love how when you look down into the next section of the room, it just, it works. It works so well. So if I look down this angle, you've got that same dark gray, yellow, white, black, teal. And if this door is open, wait till you see this door. Wait until you see what this does. Oh yeah, we went all out. Bright ass red, yellow, Tommy, teal. I mean, it works on so many levels. The first color palette I did the initial, because I bought the house before Amelia and I were really a couple. I bought the house, and on the day of closing, I ran to Lowe's and I grabbed all the paint, everything at once. I didn't put a lot of time and effort into my color scheme at all. We had the original dark gray floor, which turned out to, well, it was green, but it was supposed to be gray, go figure. But I went with a green, like a asylum green wall, or more like an institutional green kitchen walls. And I hated it from day one. But all the colors I chose were they just didn't work. They didn't contrast. They didn't work. It just, the house looked dingy. And then Amelia comes along and she picked out that red color right there. That was her. Here, let me switch the lighting here. So I'm gonna shut this off, turn those on. Yeah, she picked that out. It took me a while to get used to it, but I like it now. And then I went back and repainted the living room colors that really work better with that. And stuck this wall as a neutral, because I didn't want it to look like one. I wanted it to look like two separate living spaces. And that yellow chair was just a lucky find. Trying to tie in, some of the wild colors that the kitchen has into the living space. This is almost dry. We're going to let this dry a little longer. I'm going to put my stuff back. And then I'm going to put a second coat on what I can get access to. And then move my way along the whole floor. Or something to that effect. I don't know. I'll figure it out. All right, so we got the whole floor cleaned up and waxed. It looks like a brand new shiny panty. Now, you can still see some discoloration. Right there. That one's a little brighter than the other three, but that's okay. It's not that noticeable. I notice it more on camera than I do in person, and I'm okay with that. I did scratch it up a little bit when I moved this shelf back, but those scratches, by the way, will disappear if I were to strip the floor, which I don't want to do because the floor stripper is mostly ammonia, and a floor this size, I need to get myself an actual scrubber, like a real floor scrubber. And then what I'll do is I'll get the ammonia floor stripper and I'll do the whole thing. I'm not in any mood to do that anytime soon, so I'm probably never going to do it, but it would make this look that much better. It would make it look, if anything, it would be completely uniform. Like that, all the tiles would be that bright. Okay, a little less yellowed, but I do like the yellow patina. It's a little bit, it just gives it more character. I like it. So, did get a couple of cat prints while it was wet. That is a Tommy footprint. He was the one. Yeah, and it's in the wax. It's not. I have to wax over it. I'm going to leave it. He put his own signature there. And there's another Tommy print. There's a couple of them. Yeah, so right after there's two right there. Yeah, right after I waxed it, he came in and decided he wanted to add his own signature touch to my freshly waxed floor. And I'm not mad at him. So, say que sera, sera. But yeah, I mean, what do you think? I mean, it's a classic, 1950s kitchen, and it's not, how can I put this? It's not fake. It really isn't fake. There's nothing fake about this. This is a pattern that was very common at that time, using the correct materials. This is the original. Actually, no, these cabinets they were painted yellow. At one time, they were painted yellow, and they were never. So I looked. When I repainted these, I kind of scraped some of the paint off, looking for any evidence of there ever being a wood finish. Surprisingly, no, there was no evidence of that. So this house has never had natural wood trim. When this place was built, All the door jambs, all the trim, baseboards, cabinets, everything was painted. It was originally a more of a yellowish color, but I like it in this antique white. I really do like that color. Now, I did think about adding some color accents to this molding up here. I opted against it for simplicity's sake, but I was thinking about doing a red band around it or something, or maybe even yellow, to kind of tie that all together. But I chose not to. I chose violence. No. Also, when I put in these cabinets over here, I was able to color match, but it's not an exact match. These cabinets were built in place, and they're very easy to make. If you look here, it's very simple construction, and I could build a set of these for that wall, but because I was in a time crunch to get this place livable, I went with ready-built, ready-to-use cabinets from Lowe's. And those are actually pretty decent cabinets. I have no complaints about them whatsoever. They're not high quality, but they're also not crap either. They do make worse. So anyway, and we got the Fasco fan that still works. Works perfectly. I had to take this entire fan and duct assembly out of the attic, and I cleaned it in the front yard with about 5 cans of Easy Off. There was so much grease buildup in this duct that occasionally we'd come home on a humid afternoon and you could just smell grease. And it was because all that ductwork was caked with like a 1/4 inch of grease over the course of 70 years. There was never a filter in that fan. So I also added a round grease trap filter, which occasionally has to be cleaned. So that will never happen again. But they never had a filter there. And the filter is a metal mesh type. And what happens is when grease passes through that with the air, it condenses on the metal and sticks to it. So that traps most of the grease in the air. The grease droplets from when you're cooking with oil or whatever traps it, and it never makes it out. So that was bad. The entire duct had to come out. I was able to get it out of the attic through the scuttle, and I was able to completely clean it out. And the motor was one of the very first things I ever fixed in this house because it made a lot of noise. So I took it completely apart, cleaned it, lubricated it. Probably due to be done again, but it sounds all right now. Fortunately, it didn't suffer from bearing damage from lack of maintenance. So that's a saving grace because I can't find another one of those at all, anywhere, no matter how hard I look. I've been looking for another one for spare parts and a switch. I can't find one. So this is all original stuff. But, and these lights, those were a lucky find. My nephew, who he's 10 years old, he likes to go to the Still Good shed at the local town dump with my dad when they bring the trash out. And because just like I was the same way when I was his age, exactly the same way. And he found those lights in the Still Good shed, and he really, really wanted them. He didn't know why. I guess he just liked them. I don't know. So he took them home, and I went back to my parents' house to help out with something, and those are sitting in a box. And I'm like, Dad, where did these come from? And he told me, oh, yeah, Jackson, he found them in the dump, and he really wanted them. So I made my nephew, my little 10-year-old nephew, a deal he could not refuse. I have 3 of these. I have this one. I have, in these lights, I looked up their provenance, and they are the genuine article. These are from, I believe, the mid-'60s. I have that one, and I have one more. Where is the third? Oh, yeah, it's over here. So they are sort of period correct for the house. They are a high-quality milk glass with a solid turned aluminum base. These lights, I looked up what they're selling for. Very similar design from that manufacturer. I forget which manufacturer they are, but they're worth about $100 a piece. So I took care of him. Oh, I made sure he was well compensated, but he was willing to let them go to me, and I can't thank him enough. You know, hey, maybe someday when I'm dead, he'll own this place. You know, maybe after me and Amelia pass on, maybe he'll end up with it. Who knows? You know, and then he can tell his kids, you know, look at those lights. Like, you know. Anyway, one more thing. Oxydol. So this is a box of Oxydol from about 1948. I had to have it. Has a very peculiar, very floral scent. Almost like a, I'm not even sure how to describe it. This is real Oxydol from 1948. And I actually used this to wash one of our blankets. And it works. It works quite well. Has a very nice scent to it. I really like the smell. It's pleasant, not overpowering. It's not like anything I've smelled recently. But I found a little antique shop that had a couple boxes. They had that one that was opened, and then they had one that was unopened that was a little bit newer than that. But that one, it's got the right era for what I'm trying to pick, you know. And I got this thermometer. You'll never guess how old this is. Doesn't work. It is woefully inaccurate. It cannot be adjusted. It's just, yeah. It does move, but it's not even close to being, not even close to accurate, which is really unfortunate. But it's not broken either, so, you know, there's that. This guy was made in 1888. That's how old that is. It's very rare to have. Yeah, there was also a none such pumpkin pie mix, or pumpkin pie clock that was made by the same company. It was made by Standard Thermometer, Peabody, Mass. Yeah. But this thing is, I found this, and Amelia bought it for me. She's like, do you want it? I'm like, I like it. And she bought it. Okay. It was a little pricey, too. But if you've ever seen Antiques Roadshow, specifically the antique clock appraisals, even the ones that are shot overseas, the gentleman who does most of their clock appraisals, that's who I bought that from. So it was his shop. It's in Townsend, Mass. And I bought that clock, or that thermometer, and I bought this clock right here from the same guy. His family, him, and it was actually him specifically who sold that to me. I forget his name, but yeah, he's on Antiques Roadshow and does most of at least the American clock appraisals. He's an expert. I sat there and talked to him for a bit because I knew who he was. I've seen him on TV, and I'm like, what's the oldest clock in your shop? So he brought me to this 350-year, I think it was a 1650s, 1670s grandfather or long case clock. And it was surreal standing in front of a clock that was, I believe, nearly 350 years old. I just find that just fascinating. To see something that was made so long ago that still works perfectly. But anyway, thought I would share that with you guys. So yeah, we've got our antique kitchen. Now we're just got to clean this place up after our wedding, and we'll have a nice clean house, hopefully. Thank you for watching.